Alright, what's up everyone, I'm Filoki, and today we're going to be talking a little bit about Chris Carson and whether or not the Seahawks should try to re-sign him this offseason. Before we get into that though, this video was supposed to come out yesterday, but when I was making the video, I recorded it, everything went well, and then I go to edit it, and apparently my audio sounds like this. Alright, what's up everyone, I'm Filoki. Now, I have no idea how or why this happened, but I fixed it. This should be better, and I was just really disappointed when that happened, so I kind of just put the video off another day because I was upset that it happened. But now everything is going fine. It's time to get into the video. Chris Carson, of course, has become a star for the Seattle Seahawks, and he's kind of become the heir to Marshawn Lynch's throne. He continues that kind of play style of a running back on Seattle, the run hard, have a little bit of elusiveness, a little bit of athleticism, it just a kind of all-around power back, and it's just super nice to have him. It's super fun to watch. Of course, the Seahawks have been a very run-heavy team for a long time, and having someone like Chris Carson to take over the job of Marshawn Lynch has been really nice because he hasn't been like the greatest running back ever like Marshawn Lynch. He was a very good running back. Chris Carson I don't think's on that level yet, but Chris Carson, he definitely has room to grow. He's done really well for himself, especially as a 7th rounder, and I mean, he's been very consistent in the run game. Obviously, you'd like to see his pass catching get better, and from week 1, I mean, he seemed to be a pretty big part of the pass game. He had 2 nice receiving touchdowns, and if that's anything of a sign to come, that is very good for the prospects of Chris Carson being a great all-around back. And I mean, I would like to have him back, but I've definitely seen some people who are pretty wary of bringing him back. Last year in 2019, Chris Carson on 278 carries had over 1,200 yards and 7 touchdowns. He also had over 250 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. He did have quite a few fumbles though, and over the past few years, it has been an area of concern of him fumbling the ball a little bit too much. For me personally, the fumble issue wasn't really the biggest of issues. Obviously, you don't want to see your running back fumble, especially someone that's supposed to be as talented as Chris Carson. But some of those fumbles were just some really weird occurrences, like some missed handoffs from Russell Wilson to Chris Carson that they just gave Chris Carson the fumble. He also had just a lot of weird ones, obviously some legitimate fumbles that were not good whatsoever. But honestly, I mean, he's going to continue to progress. I think last year he just had a lot of bad plays, but he did play very well in other aspects. From 2018 to 2019, Chris Carson showed a lot of improvement in the passing game, and even going into 2020, he seemed like he was a very good part of the passing game for the Seahawks in week 1. His rushing numbers were definitely a lot lower in that week 1 game against the Falcons, but that is mainly because the Falcons decided to commit to stopping the run, and that's what allowed the Seahawks passing game to do so well. I believe it was either the Falcons head coach or the Falcons defensive coordinator who stated in an interview that they had focused on stopping the run that game and did not pay enough attention to the passing game. And of course, if you're going to stop the run for the Seahawks and you have Russell Wilson on that team with DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Greg Olsen, some very good options, you're probably going to lose the game, and the Falcons really did lose the game by quite a lot. The Seahawks offense put up a lot of points, and Chris Carson, I mean, he was a part of the passing game, but of course his running numbers were not as spectacular as you would expect them to be. He only got 6 carries though, so he got a lot less usage than he normally does, so his production would definitely be down. But overall, last week in week 1, the Seahawks run game just wasn't amazing. I think they had a little bit over 80 yards, like I said, and Russell Wilson had almost 30 of those. So I mean, what are you going to do? The run game really got stopped. The Falcons did a good job in stopping that, but it really didn't stop the offense as a whole because Russell Wilson just did what Russell Wilson does. So, if teams want to stop the run game, good for them. Russell Wilson's probably going to win us the game. But Chris Carson, I don't think that these low stat numbers are really a sign of him slowing down at all. I think he's still going to do fine. I feel like teams are going to start focusing on stopping the passing game, and the run game is going to do very well for the Seahawks. So I think Chris Carson's fine. I think this was just kind of like a week 1. The Seahawks wanted to try out everyone. I think Carlos Hyde got more rushes than Chris Carson did. So honestly, I don't think this week 1 game is really anything to take and look into the future and say Chris Carson's slowing down. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. I think he'll continue to do well, but we'll just have to wait and see. But now let's get into what's actually important. We all know Chris Carson is a very good player. He continues to get better, and I think he's just going to continue to get better for years to come, and he's going to be a very good running back. However, what will the contract look like? Now, Chris Carson, obviously being a 7th round pick, he hasn't been making a ton of money. So I assume he's going to want quite a bit of money. He's not going to take like a $2 million a year extension. If he does, that would be wild. But I definitely think he's going to be wanting to get a little bit more money. According to an estimation done by Spot Track, going into the 2020 free agency market, Chris Carson would have a market value of around $9 million a year. Now, personally, I think this is a bit too high because this would lead him to be the 6th highest paid running back. And I don't think Chris Carson's going to be getting tired top 10 running back money. I definitely think that Chris Carson is a top 10 running back in the league when it comes to talent, when it comes to production. He is very good. I am a huge fan of him, but I don't think he's getting top 10 running back numbers for two reasons. First, of course, Chris Carson has definitely had injury issues throughout his career, and I think that that's something that the Seahawks will be able to kind of leverage and get a lower price out of Chris Carson. And honestly, I mean, Chris Carson, he's a great player, but with a player that has been injured so much, you know, I don't think a team will be willing to pay him that much money. I think Chris Carson would understand that because, you know, what about his reliability? Do teams really want to pay him $10 million if he has been injured so much? The Seahawks know about him. The Seahawks know who he is. I don't think another team would pay more than the Seahawks would pay, even if the Seahawks would be paying around $6 to $7 million a year. And, you know, even that is still a lot for someone who's been making like $900,000 a year as a 7th round pick. So I think Chris Carson will be able to be leveraged down in price by his injury issues. And also, number two, he has a lot of room to grow. He's not a fully developed running back. Someone like Christian McCaffrey, who is the entire offense for the Carolina Panthers, can get $20 million a year because he can catch the ball, get 1,000 yards receiving. He can run the ball, get 1,000 yards rushing. He can do every single thing for that team. I mean, honestly, if the Panthers put him in as quarterback for the entire season, he'd probably do pretty well. But Chris Carson, he's just not at that level, right? Chris Carson, he can run very well. He is a strong power back who has the ability to be elusive, athletic, you know, do just about anything. He's great for the culture of Seattle. He's great for the fans of Seattle. They love him. I'm a huge fan of him. He is a great player he just fits the Seattle Seahawks scheme. He's kind of like a baby Marshawn Lynch, and he's continuing to grow to kind of be at the level that Marshawn Lynch was at. And I'm super excited for the future if he does get re-signed. But obviously, like I said, he still has a lot of room to grow. He's not the greatest of pass catchers. He didn't even get 300 yards receiving last year. I think he'll probably do a lot better this year, but he still has a lot of room to grow in a lot of aspects. You know, I'm not too sure about his blocking ability. I really don't pay attention to that when I'm watching a running back, but he runs well. Passing game is average to below average for him, and blocking, I have no idea, but he still has a lot of room to grow, of course, and I believe that that'll probably lead to a lower contract because he is not a fully developed running back just yet. Now, personally, what I'd like to see the Seahawks try and do with Chris Carson is get something like an Austin Eckler deal with the Los Angeles Chargers. Austin Eckler was signed to a 4-year, $24 million deal with $15 million in guaranteed money. I would like to see less guaranteed money given to Chris Carson if a deal like this was going to happen, but overall, $6 million a year is not bad whatsoever for a running back, especially someone as good as Chris Carson. I think Chris Carson would definitely make up for that. Chris Carson, in my eyes, is a good fit for the Seahawks team, a good fit for the Seahawks culture, and I mean, I'm a huge fan of him. A lot of Seahawks fans are huge fans of him. I mean, a lot of people I have seen are really kind of wary about re-signing him, but I definitely think he'd be worth it if he can stay healthy. I think he has a lot of room to grow. He can get better in the pass game. He can continue to get better in the run game where he's already very good. And honestly, I would love to have him back, especially on a deal like this. And one last thing that I want to look at for this video is Chris Carson's kind of mentality on coming back to the Seahawks. Obviously, Chris Carson is not a huge social media guy. He's not a crazy social media presence that makes big deals over anything on the internet. But I mean, he has social media and he sees things that people post. And there was a post from a Seahawks fan account that basically showed some tweets of people talking about how Pete Carroll was going with the hot hand approach in week 1 between Carlos Hyde and Chris Carson, and someone was complaining saying that Chris Carson is being disrespected by Pete Carroll and he's going to leave in free agency or whatever. And you know, some guy in the comments on that post, he added Chris Carson. He said, "Hey, I got your jersey, please don't leave." And Chris Carson says, "I don't plan to." Now, in my eyes, this is great. I'd assume Chris Carson is someone who believes in himself. Obviously, Rashad Penny being a first-round pick, Carlos Hyde being a good player that the Seahawks brought in. I mean, Pete Carroll saying that he was going to focus on going to the hot hand. I don't think Chris Carson had a problem with that because Chris Carson believes in himself to be that #1 option, to bring the production, to do well. And I mean, he continues to do well. He continues to be valuable. And I mean, his run game wasn't great because the Falcons focused on that, but he picked it up in the pass game and did really well. He's a great player. He knows that he is definitely the #1 option. No matter what Pete Carroll says, Chris Carson knows he's the #1 option. And I think he likes the Seattle kind of culture around him. People just supporting him from day 1 as a 7th round pick. I'd assume that he really enjoyed that. And it's definitely something that is a motivation, you know, having great fans like Seahawks fans cheering you on for any like 4-yard run that you get just running a dude over. You know, it must be great to have that kind of thing around you. And he probably loves the Seahawks culture. I mean, he probably loves playing with Russ, someone who's just so wholesome, just someone who always uplifts his teammates. So I think Chris Carson will probably come back. I don't think Chris Carson will be making a big deal and kind of forcing his way out of Seattle in the offseason. I think he will probably give Seattle as many opportunities as possible to re-sign him. And I think that's a good thing in general. I would love to have Chris Carson back. I don't think we really have a great replacement right now. Rashad Penny really hasn't proven himself to be that #1 option. DJ Dallas, he might be great. I mean, we really don't know. We have to see what he's going to do, but he is a rookie. I don't know if we really want to focus on him being the #1 guy and just getting rid of Chris Carson. I think Chris Carson is really our main option for bringing back in free agency, being the #1 guy next year and for years to come. I mean, I love Chris Carson. I think he is a great running back. I love watching him, so I would love to have him back, but let me know in the comments down below what you think. Make sure you leave a like on the video if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and with that, I'd like to thank you for watching. Have a great day.